Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to Telechazzy, the segment on this channel where I review the many television series that I watch over the years across many different genres. And today I actually got the intro right, didn't I? I put in a little Telechazzy there, because my last review of a Star Wars series, which was Bad Batch, right? I accidentally switched the intros. I put the intro to Cinema Chazzy and I only realized, like several days afterwards, like a week or so later, so then I had to go and trim it out. There is no intro in that video now, but this one is correct. It will not happen again. I was unbalanced with the Force. I was all messed up, clouded my editing vision, and today I'm going to be continuing my Star Wars related reviews and whatnot. As you already were able to tell by that title and thumbnail, today I'm going to be covering Obi-Wan Kenobi, which was the mini-series that ran, well, literally started in and ran in 2022. It's only one season, 6 episodes, and it's not going to be renewed for a second one, right? Each episode ranges from between 36 to 53 minutes long or so, and originally it was going to be a standalone spin-off Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, right? So it probably was going to run between, I don't know, maybe an hour and 40 to 2 hours or so, but for some reason Disney and Lucasfilm decided to, well, Lucasfilm is owned by Disney, so Disney essentially decided to, break it up into 6 episodes. I don't know why, but it is still very entertaining. We have Ewan McGregor coming back to reprise his role as Obi-Wan, and the events of the series are set 10 years after the Revenge of the Sith movie in 2005. So, story-wise, we follow Obi-Wan, who's now emerging from hiding to save a young, very, very young Princess Leia, like a child Princess Leia, from the Galactic Empire's Inquisitors, which also brings him into conflict with his former apprentice Anakin, who is now Darth Vader. It's very, very nice. It's really, for a Star Wars miniseries, it is surprisingly grounded in the lore. It has some canonical material here and there. The character development is very interesting, although the pacing is a little bit off, because we are talking about something that was essentially stretched out from an initial idea to maybe an hour and a half or so long movie into something much longer. So there were many moments where it felt like everything was dragging along. It was a lot of padding and filler and whatnot, but still the performances were good, the music was good, the action sequences were awesome, set pieces and whatnot, and I'm going to be getting into all of that in this review. And I believe that the series was even nominated for a few awards. I'm gonna look into that later. But I really personally liked it a lot. I thought it was a very interesting way to expand a little bit on the story of Obi-Wan, who is one of the most popular Star Wars characters ever, whether from the prequels or the entire, Skywalker saga. Obi-Wan has always been that, like, beacon of seniority and professionalism in the work environment, never turned to the dark side, was never tempted, even by the Duchess and freaking Mandalore. Oh, Obi-Wan, man, the true Jedi Master of Jedi Masters. Alright, so before I summarize the plot a little bit for you guys, let's take a look at the clip here from Kenobi.
It's been 10 years.
The fight is done. We lost.
Leave us alone, Ben.
When the time comes, he must be trained.
Like you trained his father?
It's my responsibility.
Obi-Wan, I've loved you always.
There's a thing that swallows you.
Even if you're not a fan of the format, the whole 6-episode mini-series, you gotta give it to the visual effects, man. The CGI, the practical effects, the visuals in general, everything looked amazing. Now, what happened back in Revenge of the Sith was that the Jedi were purged during Order 66, where they were all eradicated to give rise to the Galactic Empire. And so Obi-Wan has exiled himself. He has fled to Tatooine, where he has remained for 10 years. So, the series begins after that, showing him becoming, it's almost like the transition, between Obi-Wan and Ben Kenobi from the original trilogy, where he's a little bit more, grizzled now and has kind of lost his touch with the Force, and he's essentially a hermit. And he is keeping an eye on Luke as he grows up, even though for some reason Owen, Luke's uncle, doesn't really like him coming around. I don't know why. Sure, he might think that he's an influence, to the Jedi and the Force and all of that, and maybe he might tap into it and feel the power of his father Darth Vader. I never really understood that part specifically, but hey, it's the guy who brought you your son. You might as well turn him into like an uncle or a grandfather or even a godfather, a legal guardian, let's say, you know, but nope, they just want him off the farm. So they are at ends with each other. Now, at one point, Princess Leia is kidnapped by the Empire's Inquisitors, you know, the Grand Inquisition, in a plot to lure Kenobi out because they're hunting for him. And so Senator Bail Organa, I don't remember if he's a senator in Kenobi or if he's already higher up, or anyway, Bail Organa asks him for help and he reluctantly agrees. He does rescue Leia and they start to bond a little bit more on their adventure, you know. At first they're kind of going at ends with each other, but oh my god, go away, you goddamn motorcycle Inquisition bastards. It's like the dark side of the Force in real life, man. So, you know, essentially, this starts to make Obi-Wan kind of reflect on what he's doing. You know, you see that he's a broken man who has lost his faith, you know, in the Jedi Order and the Force, right? His religion, let's say. But being with Leia kind of, you know, brings that a little bit more. He does encounter Reva, who was the third sister, who, you know, tells him that Vader is still alive. So that's when Obi-Wan starts to kind of feel within himself conflict. He does eventually meet up with him. You know, there are some adventures here and there. The episodes get a little long and drawn out. We are introduced to some secondary characters, you know, but when he finally encounters Vader again, it's very brutal. They do have a little bit of a duel where Vader scorches him in the fire on the ground, you know, kind of like as a revenge for letting him burn back on Mustafar. It was crazy, man. And it all leads up to a climax, right, where he confronts him and gets the upper hand. And this is something that really doesn't make a lot of sense, because Obi-Wan now has another chance to finish off, you know, Vader, who he sees as Anakin, because he breaks his helmet and literally sees a part of his face in the helmet, so he does see that it's Anakin. But Vader claims that he killed Anakin, so it's all the whole confusing thing. It's the same person, but it's not the same person thing, you know. Star Wars loves doing that. And Obi-Wan freaking walks away, man. He turns around and walks away. He got another chance to finish off Vader right there, man. He left him to die on Mustafar and he didn't, and he just left him there again. But anyway, so, you know, we also see Reva, you know, conflicted within herself. You know, she joined the Empire because she wanted to get revenge on Anakin because he slaughtered, you know, the other younglings in the temple. And then she grew up and wants revenge. But then, I don't know, for some reason, she just never got the chance. Then Vader stabs her, you know, and she doesn't die because freaking Disney's lightsaber logic and whatnot. And she eventually goes back to the homestead and sees Luke. You know, she confronts Owen and Beru. It's like this whole thing. There is a little bit of a happy ending of sorts where we see, you know, Obi-Wan getting to meet Luke for the first time, you know, so it's nice. But oh my god, man, it's so, some of the plot points made no sense at all. The plot holes, you know, everything was just so, I don't know, you know. It was nice to see, you know, Obi-Wan and Anakin getting back together, let's say, you know, Hayden reprising his role, but, you know, everything else just felt so stunted, you know. There were some moments of brilliance here and there, but the whole thing felt like it was just dragging out too much, way too much padding and filler. But still, very entertaining at the end of the day. And now, before I continue, let's take a look at another clip from it.
Jedi are cowards. They failed you. There is no point in protecting them. Where is Obi-Wan?
Now, given Obi-Wan's very traumatic past, you know, what happened in Revenge of the Sith, having to leave his own apprentice and best friend and brother for dead on Mustafar, feeling guilty about that, right? He was a very emotional character in the prequels, and it led to, you know, the eventual Zen Master, you know, Ben Kenobi in the original trilogy. But seeing the gap between that being bridged, I think was very interesting, right? So, you know, Obi-Wan is now broken down and, you know, having these traumatic experiences that he can't seem to get away from, but he does try to. Ewan McGregor, you know, coming back to play Obi-Wan was a very interesting, he had a very interesting, you know, let's say, what's the word? He had a really interesting assignment, which was to play the same character that he had before, but that was closer to the Alec Guinness version, you know, of Ben. So it was really cool to see him, you know, like you could tell it's still the same character, but at the same time, there was something a little different there. It's almost like he was a little bit nonchalant about everything, right? So it's very, very, you know, it makes sense with the losses that he faced, right, in the movies leading up to this. So I think it was really nice as well. And also, some recurring co-stars. We had Rupert Friend, that's literally his name, you know, he's a friend to all of us, playing the Grand Inquisitor, right? So a member of the Paon species, you know, from Utapau, and he's the highest rank Inquisitor of the Galactic Empire, so kind of an annoying antagonist in my opinion. Then we have Sun Kang as the fifth brother, you know, who is another Inquisitor who serves as a rival to Reva, right, the fifth sister, and he's always following really strict orders from Darth Vader himself and also the Grand Inquisitor. And speaking of which, we have Moses Ingram as Reva Sevender, you know, or the third sister, who is the primary antagonist, who becomes kind of like almost like an anti-hero of sorts, because even though she should have been killed with the lightsaber stabbed to the stomach, she just kind of, you know, does an about face there. She's very ruthless, very ambitious, right, after having been a youngling who survived the purge in the hands of Anakin himself. So it's interesting to show you know, her almost trying to show forgiveness of sorts, you know, and doing a little character redemption arc there, but it ultimately didn't really pay off very well, in my opinion. Then we have Vivian Lyra Blair as Leia Organa, the very young Leia, you know, a child now running around and stuff. I actually thought that the little actress played her very, very well. You know, it's not easy playing the daughter of Anakin Skywalker, man, you know, even as a kid, so it's crazy. And she is kidnapped by bounty hunters, and we see the story unfold because of that. I think that the actress did really well. Then we have Kumail Nanjiani as Haja Estri, who is a street level con artist, you know, working on the streets, and he's pretending to be a fake Jedi to con people out of money, but Obi-Wan catches him in the act, you know. They do become kind of little buddies for a time there, but man. And also we have Hayden Christensen, of course, coming back to play Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader, and it's very cool. And I think that you know, because Hayden hadn't played the character since 2005, it was kind of, he had to kind of warm up to it a little bit, you know, and after that, he even had to rewatch not only the Skywalker films, but the Clone Wars animated series to prepare for the role, you know, because it's nice, because those series actually do flesh out the relationship a lot more between Anakin and Obi-Wan, so it doesn't make sense that the actors would watch them, but it's still kind of funny, because like, you're an actor who played a Star Wars character for many years, and now it's been even longer, so you have to go back and watch certain shows to see how the character that you played was, you know. I don't know, I just thought it was kind of cool. Now there are others as well. So for example, we have Indira Varma as Tala Durith, who was a disillusioned Imperial officer on the planet Mapuzo. She does actually help the Jedi escape from the Empire at some point, so she is still kind of like, she still plays the part of an Imperial officer, but she's kind of like pulling a Schindler's List, you know, and helping Jedi escape the Empire. And also we have O'Shea Jackson Jr., the son of Ice Cube, by the way, fun fact for you guys, playing Kawalan Rockin, who was a leader in the Path Network that helps Jedi also escape the Empire. Gotta be honest, I don't remember who the hell this guy is. I have no idea. Maybe he was wearing a helmet or something, because I don't remember any distinct black characters except for, you know, Reva, but still. Now, there are other characters as well, other co-stars, but I want to focus on just the main and recurring cast, so I don't have to edit too much here, and that's essentially it. I think that everybody brought a lot of really good energy to the table. I think that the way that the characters were portrayed now, especially the old actors coming back to reprise their role, even Ian McDiarmid came in, you know, as a little cameo as Darth Sidious, so it was really interesting. I thought that it felt like Star Wars in a more modern day setting, while also capturing the magic of the original movies that we all grew up with and fell in love with, right? So I thought it was nice, very good all around casting. And before I get into a little bit of the production and development, let's take a look at another clip from Kenobi.
The Jedi are all but extinct.
The Jedi Code is like an itch. He cannot help it.
Stay hidden.
Or we will not survive.
You still want Kenobi. He's gone.
One of the coolest things about this miniseries is that it made use of the stagecraft video wall technology, which was used in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, which is basically using a lot more practical effects than special effects. So Ewan actually said that he enjoyed working on this miniseries a lot more than the actual movies, because back then when they were making the prequels, there was a lot, and I mean a lot, of blue screen and green screen. So in many of the scenes, the actors were interacting with pretty much nothing, you know, and in some cases, you know, Obi-Wan was literally talking to nothing. Like when he was on Camino, like the actor was just there looking up at green orbs and stuff, but here it was almost entirely practical, so it just kind of made it a lot more easier to get into it and whatnot. So even the lightsaber was a little different. Obi-Wan's lightsaber in this miniseries is kind of like a mix between his lightsaber in the original trilogy and in the prequel trilogy, so it's kind of like they took the two designs and juxtaposed them together, and the lightsabers were all crafted to accommodate the actor's hands better, so everything was much more comfortable. It was really nice. It was really cool, man. And also, Natalie Holt was brought in to compose, the musical score. And actually, it made her the very first woman ever to score a live-action Star Wars work, whether a film or a TV series. So I thought it was really nice. And, giving women a little bit more room in this industry here, I think is really awesome. Although, of course, we largely associate Star Wars with John Williams. But still, that's just it, right? He did, it was kind of like... Apparently he recorded the main theme for the series, but then later Natalie took over apparently, so yes. And there are other things here as well that I can say. I have a little bit of a cheat sheet here of sorts. So now here we go, a little bit more about the filming, right? So now wait, what? So apparently Ewan did costume tests for Kenobi while he was, on the set of The Mandalorian. Was he in The Mandalorian? Don't tell me, don't spoil it. I haven't watched it yet, but that's what it says here, So it's quite something. Now, what I think is that because the series had a lot of emphasis on practical effects, they actually created real set pieces in studios in Manhattan and Manhattan studios and whatnot. I think that it gave everything a much more authentic feel, Everything felt so good. The dialogue and the character arcs, like Obi-Wan as a character, we all know and love him as kind of like the lovable Jedi Master who's very comprehensible and understanding, albeit a little harsh with Anakin in the prequels. And now seeing him still have that, like the character still having an attachment to Anakin despite the events that transpire in the episodes, to the point where he can't bring himself to strike him down at the end, at the climax, is very emotional. Obi-Wan was always an emotional character, even more so than Anakin. You could argue that Anakin was a little bit more because of his love with Padme and whatnot, but Obi-Wan is the one who had to deal with all of the nonsense, and especially with his apprentice eventually turning to the dark side of the Force. So I think it was very nice. It's just the writing that needed a little bit of work, because it was originally titled Obi-Wan Kenobi, a Star Wars story, so it was going to be a standalone film. For some reason, somebody decided to make it into a feature length, into an episodic mini-series, right? Which doesn't really make a lot of sense. If they had ever tried to make a second season, it would have been even worse, because I think that despite its flaws, it still managed to wrap up very nicely, so it was good. And I have some more information for you guys here with the accolades, right? So now it actually won an award for Best Limited Event Series for Streaming and an award for the Best Guest Starring Role on Television for Hayden Christensen. That's a mouthful. At the 47th Saturn Awards, and it was also nominated for the award for Outstanding Limited or Anthology Series at the 75th Primetime Emmy Awards. So yes, man, it's all good. And I really think that the character-driven narrative and like the whole, emotional weight, let me put this down here, the whole emotional weight behind it was very resounding with Star Wars fans, myself included. I was really excited to watch this series, man. It was on my list on Disney Plus for so long. When I finally got through it, I watched it in one day, I remember it because in the morning I watched the Tales of the Jedi, and then the climbing to like the afternoon, evening, and I binged the entirety of Kenobi in one sitting, and it was really nice. But it wasn't perfect because it felt like it was a little bit too stretched out at some points, to the point where the plot felt kind of threadbare in a few instances here. I'm going to give this series a rating of 7 out of 10, It's not bad enough to be 6 or under, but not good enough to be 8 or higher. I think 7 is very fair. It's right there in the spectrum, Very watchable, very entertaining. I just think they could have done a little bit more work. Even if they had gone with the miniseries route, maybe trim some parts of the episodes, Like some of them are almost an hour long, Remember, 36 minutes to 53 minutes, more or less. So some of them were around 40 or so minutes. It's too much. If like each episode was at least a half hour, then maybe it could have been a little better, but I don't know. Maybe it would have been better explored as a standalone movie, right? But that's it, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you watched it, and if you haven't, you gave yourself a bunch of spoilers. Gotta be careful when you watch these reviews on YouTube, huh? Always be careful with the spoilers. And that's it for now. That was nice. Another Star Wars series, in the bag. This might probably be my last one, too. So that's it, guys. If you happen to enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a like and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too so you can know exactly what time I upload, and it's all good. This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. May the force be with you, and roll the outro screen.
I want every bounty hunter to squeeze him.